I think I pressed all the right buttons. Good morning, my magnificent ones. Sue Paulson here, your magnificence mentor, and we're back with Tea with Sue. Well, it's April 1st, and the joke is on us if we believe that change is not constant. So our topic today is, how well do you accept the inevitable? I'd love to be able to say, oh, well, change is no problem for me. I just accept it and move through it just as easy as a hot knife through butter. Well, that would be a lie. All right. I have resisted change from probably the day that I realized that what was happening to me was not going to stay the same. As a little kid, and when they changed from pointy toe shoes to square toe shoes, I was not happy. So it's been a lifelong challenge to really begin to feel as if I dealt with change better, more easily, faster, whatever. So this week, life comes along, and we had a big change in our lives this week. My cousin, who lives in Vancouver, and her mother, my aunt, who lives 2.5 hours away from me, it was time to move her to a residence that offered more care. She's coming 91 this year and was getting a little more frail, and the signs were there. She was starting to fall, and life was not that good for her, and we were concerned for her safety and her well-being, and it was time. But of course, facing the inevitable was not easy for any of us, because we kept thinking, well, maybe she'll be able to hang on, maybe it'll be okay. Even when I was doing the paperwork to activate this process to find her a new place to live, there was still this thing in the back of my mind, well, maybe we can just keep things the same. Maybe it's still okay. Maybe it's still okay. So there we were, going down the river of denial in a very, floaty sort of way. It'll be all right. And then we get the phone call. There's a suite here. And I'm, okay, well, all of a sudden we're going into hyper gear, because they won't hold the bed for very long. There's other people on the list, and her turn had come up, and if you don't take this, it could be a long time. So then the whole process of the move began. And it was, oh my goodness, a grueling 5 days of effort to get her packed up and brought here and then resettled. And this was after I'd already got the suite organized with furniture and so on, so she could just move in. So now here we're in the last week. She arrived Sunday, so we're like 5 days in, and I'm in recovery mode still, because my body was not that thrilled with this big onslaught of change, and working that consistently for that long, and the stress of the highway drive and renting a vehicle and all those kinds of things that are out of my norm. So I was out of my comfort zone in a big way. And I found myself today, when I woke up, feeling disgruntled, feeling out of sorts, because now the change has occurred, and the reality of what will happen from here on starts. And so the rhythm of my life will be different, because in her being closer, then I can see her a little more often, which I'm grateful for and is a good thing. But also, the way my life was a week ago, I wasn't required to make that amount of space for her. And I already have a pretty full life. So that was, and that's my story. And so of course, on her end of the stick, she's having to leave a community that she's lived in for many, many years. And in the residence that she was at, she'd been there 9 years. So she knew pretty well everybody. She knew the staff quite well. She knew what to expect on a day-to-day basis. Whether she liked it or not, didn't have as much or carry as much weight as the fact that she was comfortable. She was in her comfort zone and things were moving along okay. So there was certainly some resistance on her part to make this transition, because when we're older, it seems more difficult to let go of the familiar and venture into the unknown. I was probably way more fearless about change and moving into the unknown when I was younger than sometimes it feels like now. And so we cling to what's comfortable, we cling to what's familiar, and even if we don't like what we're clinging to, at least we know it. That there's that old saying, the devil you know is better than the devil that you don't know. And of course, when it comes to change, it feels very much like a kind of hell here and there. And so it's a big deal to deal with that. But of course, the inevitable happens. We look around. We have a saying in this part of the world: if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, because inevitably the weather will change. Even if you do like the weather, wait 5 minutes and it'll change. So that's life, right? That's what we're dealing with as we're here on planet Earth. So I've been pondering this because I would like to be able to deal with change in an elegant way, in a graceful, yes, of course. And on the surface, I'm sure that other people look at the way I deal with things and think, oh, wow, she's just as calm as that duck gliding across the water, not realizing that underneath my feet are just frantically paddling to keep going. And because I don't often show my disequilibrium, but I confess I was pretty rattled about this big transition. And so now I'm, well, how do I find my feet again? How do I move from here? And I know it will come. But of course, time plays a role in that, because it's going to take a little time before I start to feel more comfortable. And of course, and my aunt feels more comfortable, and we settle into some kind of a new routine. So that's the challenge right there, is to say, all right, what can I hang on to that is familiar, that will make this transition easier, and what is it will I need to adjust along the way? It was very similar when I was going through cancer, only it was happening in a big way to me personally. And I remember wanting to deny that the whole thing existed in the first place. But whether I liked it or not, and I didn't like it, there was this move through this process. Well, first you need to face this, and then you need to face that, and then you need to face this. And I wanted to just turn and run, kicking and screaming and avoiding the whole thing if I possibly could. But there was no way to avoid it. What was going on in my body was what was going on in my body, and decisions needed to be made. So that's the thing about change in our lives, especially change that we're not that fond of, or we resist and we don't want. Then there's this extra layer of, I mean, if it's a change that you want, then, and you're moving towards, whether it's going to university after being in high school for the years you were, whether it's getting married after being single for a period of time. These kind of happy change. You got a new job or a promotion, and but there's still that level of discomfort until we begin to kind of fit into the new. I mean, the shoes tend to pinch at first. And so until we relax, until we change our perspective a little bit, there's a fear that can come in. And the only way I know to deal with that fear, number one, is to face it head on. Say, yeah, I'm fearful about, well, this could happen and that could happen and that could happen. Well, if I face it head on and look at it from, well, what's the worst of that? And if I can deal with the worst of it, it'll be okay. Even if I can't deal with the worst of it, at least I've identified what the worst of it is, and somehow can marshal my fortitude or my determination or my resources to maybe get some help with whatever that worst is. So that's the fear part of it, and acknowledging that it's there, and we feel it in our tissues. So as an example, with this moving my aunt, I had gone to my chiropractor just a few days before I made the journey, because my right hip was really bothering me. And of course I knew that there physiologically, it was a signal from my body, okay, something's not quite right here. And I also knew there was an emotional component, and this man I trust implicitly, he knew how to tap into that. And so we identified while I was there what this was all about. And it related specifically to this resistance that I was feeling about this whole move, about having to do this and not wanting to, just saying, I wish it would just go away. So once that was identified very clearly, it was so fascinating that the pressure eased in my body. And I thought, well, I'm in it, like it or not, and it's time to just deal with it. And so I don't have to like it, but I do need to accept that this is the path we're on. This is what's been set up, and it's important to follow it to its inevitable conclusion. So what a relief to be able to arrive at my aunt's old place without that pain, with an acceptance that, all right, well, like it or not, here we are, and deal with it from that perspective. And it didn't mean that any of us were thrilled about the whole thing, because we weren't, but it was there in front of us to deal with. So that's the kind of dealing with the fear part. Well, the other part of that, of course, is let's bring in some love on this whole equation, because love conquers fear every time. So what about love? Well, compassion is a huge component of this whole adventure, to say, well, I need to be gentle with myself and with everybody else involved. We're doing the best we can under difficult circumstances. Everybody plays their role to the best of their ability. And so we want to cut ourselves some slack and give ourselves some compassion, knowing that it doesn't feel good, and that it's going to be hard at times. So because life is hard. Life can be very hard. So we need to allow ourselves to feel the feelings of that, feel the resentment, feel the sadness, feel the anger, feel the whatever. My aunt said to me after I got her moved in, she said, do you ever feel like screaming? I started to laugh and I said, Oh yes, and I had an immediate flashback to a time when I just let out this primal scream because things had got too much. So as soon as she said that, I just had this vat of compassion for her because she knew she needed to do this and she didn't like it at all. And yet, by golly, she stepped up and she did it. So kudos to her for at 90 years of age going along, even though this was not her favorite thing to be doing. And if she had a different choice, she would have made a different choice. So it's that loving ourselves through the whole thing. Did I do it as gracefully as I wanted? No, I didn't. It's still a little messy. But I got through it. And now here we are at the next phase. So that's the other part of the thing that I like is remembering that this too shall pass. No matter how dire or deep or horrific things are in this moment, eventually the moment will pass and things can lighten up again if they're very, very dark. So, and of course the opposite is also true. So we want to celebrate the great things that are going on right in this moment because they too will pass and become distant memories. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I'm not sure that I have any more answers worked out today than I had yesterday in relation to dealing with the inevitability of change. But I wanted to talk about it today because our world is going through tremendous change, and the acceptance of that change is going to hit us full force. So what are we going to do about it? How are we going to deal with the impact of that on our own lives? What's our level of acceptance? What's our level of willingness to say, well, maybe this is the lesser of two evils, so I pick this. It's not my first choice. It's not what I want, but this is better than this. So we just do what we do. And I know you can do this, just like I know I can do this, because we're that magnificent, right? We're so much more than anything that we face in relation to change or adversity or trauma. We're just so much more than that. So we're up to the task. So just go for it, do the best you can in the moment. Lean on others for help and support. I had my little pity party earlier in the week and invited a couple of people, and they listened to me for a little while. And then it was time to think about, well, what was I grateful for? So I'm grateful that she's here. She's safe. She's close by. And if that's what it is, I'm grateful for that too. So go take on the rest of the day, my magnificent ones. Think about change and how it affects you and how you're going to be proactive in the face of it as much as possible. Oh, if you're enjoying Tea with Sue, then I invite you to either subscribe to my YouTube channel, Sue Paulson, or you can go download my free app called The Magnificence Mentor. And there's just more to come. This is episode number 65. Wow. It's amazing how they build up over time. Anyway, I'm having a great deal of fun doing this. I keep showing up because you keep showing up. I keep getting feedback from people that I know and some people that I don't personally know, who say that what I'm doing here has meaning for them and they look forward to it every week. So that spurs me on to keep showing up. So as long as you keep showing up, I'll keep showing up. Take good care. We'll see you again next week.